Hey guys, it's the Disco Spider, and although there are many great cartoons, there are only a few that people would consider to be a masterpiece. Shows like Avatar The Last Airbender and Gravity Falls I would consider to be a perfect 10 out of 10. But one show that a lot of people would put on the same ranks as Avatar The Last Airbender is Samurai Jack. Samurai Jack premiered in 2001 and ended in 2004. It's been roughly 13 years since we've gotten a new episode of Samurai Jack, and there was always hope since the show was never really cancelled. The crew just took a break to make the Clone Wars miniseries and just never came back. And although Samurai Jack was supposed to come back with a movie, Adult Swim decided to make a new season of Samurai Jack, which will be their last. One final season to conclude everything. And if all goes according to Keikaku, this review should be up on the same day as the premiere of Samurai Jack Season 5, March 11th. But before we see the last 10 episodes of the series, I will look upon the original 52 episodes and see if Samurai Jack is a true masterpiece and deserves all the glory and the hype for the new season, or if we should have just thrown this series into the future and forget about it. The show is about a samurai named Jack who winds up in the future when he goes and battles the shapeshifter master Aku after he imprisons everyone in Jack's town. Now Jack has to go back to the past and stop Aku to rid the world of his evil. The show is very different than any cartoon because it values its cinematography and animation more than anything, and it would even influence the plot at some points. And that's where I think the true beauty of Samurai Jack lies. The angles and framing in this cartoon is amazing. It helps enhance so much and builds into the suspense of the action scenes. And speaking of the action scenes are amazing too. With the help of the cinematography, the action scenes are a real sight to see. And surprisingly, the pacing is good too. It does seem slower than your average cartoon, but the cinematography helps to not bore you. But even if I do like the animation, I don't think it's amazing. Jenny Tartakovsky, the creator of the show, has a very simple art style. It's the same art style as early Cartoon Network or late Hanna-Barbera, where everything is very limited and basic shaped, which makes sense because he did create Dexter's Laboratory. But I feel the simple shape does ruin the animation sometimes. Nothing too bad, since I do like the animation. But a lot of people praise it for being amazing and kind of looking like a painting. And although I can see it with the cinematography and the framing, I don't think it's as amazing as everyone else says it to be. And the backgrounds and places that Jack visits aren't that interesting because they seem to look very familiar to each other. It's usually either a village, city, or jungle. Sometimes it can be different and look amazing, but there weren't that many cool places where I was breathless with the animation and would have loved to explore that place. And then we have my biggest flaw with the show, which is that it is very episodic. I know it doesn't sound like an argument at all, since practically every cartoon is episodic, but why I don't think it works here is because the show has a storyline, Jack wanting to go back to the past and stop Aku, but there's no build-up, no story arcs or anything. It's always just Jack being so close to going home, and then something happens and has to find a new way. It's the same repeated plot in a bunch of episodes. My personal favorite episodes are when it's not about the plot and more of Jack interacting with the characters that he meets, like the Scotsman episode or the Wannabe Samurai episode. But with the entire series being very sad, I got kind of bored throughout the shows, since nothing big ever happened that'll affect another episode. It's like if Avatar The Last Airbender was all about stopping the Fire Nation. Every episode would have Aang and the gang trying to fight the Fire Nation, but at the end of the episode, the Fire Nation runs away, and everything resets, and they'll have to fight them again. No story arcs, no characters, no suspense, and a lot less character development. It would have helped Samurai Jack immensely if there were some story arcs, like if Jack needed to go find some items or pieces to enter this town that has a machine that can go back to the past, and the whole season is about him finding all these pieces to go to that city. Or maybe even have someone follow Jack without him knowing, and it leads to either someone who can help Jack or someone who will destroy him, and then each episode of the season is just about someone following Jack, and we get a little bit of his perspective on the story. Or something like that, a giant overarching plot with little subplots sprinkled through each season to help build up the seasons. But because every episode is very static, it doesn't matter the order of episodes you watch it, except for a few, and because of that there isn't much suspense in the story. It's just one plot line repeated over and over without anything added to it. And lastly, we have the two main characters of the show. Jack as a character, I like how they show him as a person who is incredibly strong, but has a great mind and will think of anything to defeat someone, not with just his strength. And I like how they didn't make Jack some sort of godlike character. There are times in the show where he does get his ass handed to him, yet he learns from his mistakes and becomes a better samurai and a better person. And although there isn't much development in the show and for Jack, and I would have loved it if Jack got a lot of development, but there is still some there, and it does help make Jack a very likable character. And then we have Aku. Aku is probably my favorite character just because he is very threatening, yet really funny. The voice Mako gives Aku is a very booming and amazing voice that every time I hear Aku, I just get a little nervous just because his voice is just so threatening. But what makes him amazing are the times where he becomes more comical, intentionally or not. Like the one episode where Aku reads fairy tales to these kids, hoping that they'll think of him as a hero. That episode has a ton of comedy. Seeing this almighty creature read these silly tales is really funny, and seeing his more narcissistic side where he thinks, oh, he's so great and everyone else sucks. Yet he does still have this threatening side to him, even if he's being more comical. And I also really love the relationship that Jack and Aku have. I love the interactions between them, especially in the episode Jack vs. Aku, since they seem like they've known each other for forever, which leads to some funny scenes with them. On their own, these characters are great, but together they have an amazing chemistry, even if they do want to kill each other. But overall, although I don't think Samurai Jack is an amazing cartoon and an epic masterpiece like everyone else, I still really like this show for the cinematography, great characters, and great interactions. If there's any time to watch Samurai Jack, it is now. With Season 5 on its way, I'd highly recommend watching the series to get ready for Season 5. Judging by the trailers, it seems like the show is in a different, more serious and darker tone, and improving on the problems I had for the show, like basic animation and a static and repeated story with no layers. But will Season 5 be as good or better than the previous seasons? We'll just have to wait and see. But until then, I'm the Disco Spider, and peace out.